Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the SmackDown report for the 24th of September 2021. Yet again, the show is marked by stuff that does not belong on network television, followed by stuff that kind of does. In the sense of, ultimately, there's good stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that just never would have even ran even 5 years ago. Anyway, so we kind of moved forward through that. We got over 1,900 of these available going into 2000, and anyhow, so getting to a good space here. Um, this is the go home show for the unneeded Extreme Rules concept this weekend. Um, Opening segment, Becky Lynch, SmackDown Women's Champion. Becky Lynch makes her entrance. She starts SmackDown. She gets a decent pop from the fans. They give her a positive reaction. Bianca Belair's homecoming celebration last week, and they highlight that as well, including Lynch avoiding the KOD and hitting the manhandle slam. Fans give Lynch a mixed reaction afterwards, but they're cheering her, I'd say 80-20. There's a Becky chance. Lynch notes that after the baby, she returned at SummerSlam, beat Belair in 26 seconds, but didn't have a party. The fans acknowledge the accomplishment. Belair tried to attack her last week, so she had to embarrass her. Lynch claims that she didn't want to embarrass Belair in front of her friends and family. Lynch started to say that Belair had one option, and her Bianca's music interrupts. There's EST chants along the way. The fans break into a Becky chant. Belair admits that Lynch embarrassed her in her hometown. She wasn't ready to face Lynch at SummerSlam, but she's ready for Extreme Rules. Lynch notes that Belair knew about the match at SummerSlam, and Belair notes that she proved how strong she was when she picked up Lynch in heels last week. She said she had all the same accomplishments at Lynch, but did it faster. Belair promised to win the title at Extreme Rules and offered a handshake. Lynch then smacked Belair and fights, and they use the manhandle slam, but Belair reverses into the KOD. Belair poses to end the segment. The segment was good, ran a little long, but at least the idea of the match gets across well. King Nakamura, Rick Boggs, and Tori Storm rocked out to Nakamura's music in the back. King Nakamura with Boogs defeats Apollo Crews with Commander Aziz to retain the title. 7:46. Match went longer than it needs to. Fans did acknowledge the finish. Crews discusses losing the title and promised to regain it tonight. Crews beats Nakamura with a bunch of forearms, gains an early advantage. Follows up with some clotheslines and a press slam in the ringside area. Go to the break. We come back. Boogs is playing Nakamura's music for encouragement. Why are we playing music in the middle of a match? This is just stupid. Follows with a sliding German suplex. Nakamura leaps off the second turnbuckle, but Crews counters with a drop kick. This is decent enough. Nakamura regains control and hits a knee off the second turnbuckle for a near fall. Nakamura then goes for the Kinshasa. Crews hits the drop kick and Samoan drop for near fall. Nakamura then fights back and goes for the Kinshasa, but Crews rolls out of the ring. Nakamura then catches Aziz with a knee, and Boogs gives him a suplex at ringside. Almost said super kick because everyone does those. That's all they seem to do these days. Anyway, finish comes when Crews goes for an Olympic slam, but Nakamura hits an arm drag. Nakamura then rolls up Crews to retain the title. I don't know. It's fine, but again, match went a little long, and honestly, it wasn't that great. They recap Reigns and Usos from Raw last Monday. Caleb Braxton interviews Montez Ford. Ford notes that Dawkins isn't there tonight because he's at a friend's wedding. He discusses Reigns and the Usos going to Raw. He then insulted the Usos and Reigns and promised to win tag titles on Sunday. I'm sorry, but a personal thing like a wedding should have been kept off television as far as a reason for a person not attending work. I'm not a fan of that at all. Reigns' locker room. Reigns is furious that Ford mocks them and demands a match with Ford. Later tonight, fans pop for Reigns versus Ford. What a weak match that is. Paul Heyman approaches Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce. Pearce notes that he wouldn't tell Heyman if Lesnar is going to be at Raw. Heyman doesn't want to talk about Lesnar. He demands Reigns versus Ford in the main event. They agree to the match. Heyman said after the match they'll talk about the draft. They recap Seth Rollins and Edge feud. Rollins promises to finish off Edge last week. In the back, Rollins notes that he hadn't heard anything from Edge all week. He believes Edge is hurt and might never compete in the ring again. Rollins then demands Edge show up. SmackDown next week, he wants Edge to tell everyone he's superior and not Edge. It's Rollins' promise to find Edge and beat him in front of his wife and kids. This is fine, but at the same time, it stinks of stretching a feud too long that doesn't have any real meat left on it. Zelina Vega defeats Liv Morgan. Poor Liv Morgan, so much talent and wasted here. Vega and Morgan have a fine match, but why bother getting dressed for 2 minutes? Vega gets her first win since returning, although Morgan still faces Carmella at Extreme Rules. Carmella is a step backwards for everybody. They recap Morgan and Carmella feud. Carmella joins Michael Cole and Pat McCaffrey on commentary. Morgan hits a dropkick in the ring at the bell and then has an advantage. Vega takes over. Vega slows the match down. Chinlock in a 2-minute match. Pick up the pace just a little bit, ladies, please. Anyway, Morgan tries to break free. Morgan then fights back, sends Vega face first into the middle turnbuckle. Carmella jumps off commentary and yells at Morgan. Morgan goes after Carmella. Vega takes advantage and she nails Morgan with a kick to the head and hits a code red for the win. A really weak match. Baron Corbin in a Happy Talk segment welcomes everyone to the segment. He notes that he's in a good mood and he whistles a tune. Corbin notes that it isn't like the KO show because his talk is about happiness. They recap Corbin attacking Kevin Owens. Segment goes on longer than it needs to. Corbin then laughs in Owens and his attack. Owens' music interrupts and he walks out to the ring. Suddenly a guy in a hoodie jumps Owens and sends him into the barricade. Michael Cole reveals this is Riddick Morris, the guy under the hood. Didn't even know he was still employed. Corbin and Moss beat down Owens and slam him into the steps. Had literally forgot that he was still employed. Anyway, Caleb Braxton interviews Montez Ford again. Ford doesn't regret his comments earlier and can't wait to get in the ring. With Reigns, Ford's wishes Angelo Dawkins could be there. Edge tweeted that he'd be at SmackDown next week for the draft. What a week. Tweeting about matches? Why? Anyway, Nikki Ash with Rhea Ripley defeats Natalya with Tamina. Why is Natalya still employed after all these years? They had less than 2 minutes to have a match. Natalya uses a side headlock early. Nikki breaks free. Follows up with a drop kick for a near fall. Natalya takes over with a suplex and a 2 count. Nikki fights back and goes for the tornado DDT, but Tamina jumps up on the apron. Ripley and Tamina start brawling at ringside, which there's a distracted referee. Natalya blocks the DDT and rolls up Nikki, but the referee then goes and distracts Nikki for the reversal for the win. Actually, no one cares about this. After the match, Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackhearts come out with the tank and shoot a missile at the champion, or tag team champions. Anyway, then they recap Rey and Dominic Mysterio's recent problems. In the back, Rey tells Dominic that he needs to listen and focus more on his matches. Dominic blames Rey for the nitpicking of his matches and despite telling him to succeed on his own, Rey decided to give Dominic space to find his own success, and Rey walks off. Sami Zayn approaches Dominic. Zayn tells Dominic to listen to Rey less and trust his instincts more. God, this show feels like such a slog to get through by this point. Naomi is in a segment. This is a decent enough segment. Naomi and Deville were nice in their roles. It doesn't go too long. I don't know that they necessarily need for this to go as long as it did. Naomi makes her way out to the ring. They recapped the confrontation with Sonya Deville. Michael Cole notes that Naomi doesn't have a match tonight. Hasn't had a match in several weeks. Naomi pointed out that she came back to SmackDown to compete, but Deville won't give her that opportunity. Deville interrupts and notes that she makes matches. Naomi then challenged Deville to a match. Instead, DeVille claims that she'd slapped the glow off Naomi's face, but she's not a wrestler anymore. Naomi demanded the match and starts a make the match chants. DeVille yells, cut Naomi's mic, and security takes her away. Fans boo this. Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and the Usos are on their way to the ring. Usos run in, and they run into Otis and Chad Gable. Why is Otis still employed? I don't get it. Anyway, in the back, Becky Lynch is furious, and Bianca Belair beat her down earlier. She promises to retain her title at Extreme Rules. Lynch isn't just going to beat Belair, she's going to break her. Michael Cole and Pat McAfee run down the lineup for Extreme Rules that actually nobody who even pays for Peacock cares about. And then we go to the main event segment. Anyway, Ford and Reigns did work hard. They go 15 minutes, 57 seconds. Match is fine. Finn Balor attacks the heels in a good show-closing angle. Reigns takes Ford's down with a shoulder tackle. Ford fights back. He avoids Reigns with a couple of leapfrogs and a standing dropkick. Back from the break, Reigns is in control, and then he nails Ford with a clothesline in the corner. Fans break into a Tribal Chief chant, although it's hard to hear. Ford fights back, rocks Reigns with an enziguri, follows up with a dropkick, and then Ford beats Reigns around ringside and sends him into the barricade. Why are we so reliant on barricades? Ford then goes to jump on the announce table, but it falls off before he falls off before he could really do anything. McCaffrey believed that his dancing on the table broke it earlier. Reigns lifts Ford into the air and slams him down to regain control. Back from the break, Ford then fights back with a springboard crossbody near fall. Ford then hits a series of flips, but finally regains his footing, hits a drop kick, follows up with a brainbuster for a close 2 count. Reigns avoids a frog splash and hits a version of the rock bottom for near fall. McCaffrey referred to the move as the rock bottom. I guess we're eventually going to get Rock versus Reigns because we're acknowledging the Rock again. Reigns then goes for a spear. Ford avoids it, hits the DDT for near fall. Ford runs wild and sends Reigns into the steps at ringside. Finish comes when Ford goes for the hot frog splash, but Reigns then gets the knees up and locks on the guillotine submission for the win. After the match, Paul Heyman notes that Reigns didn't do enough and needs to prove to Ford. Finn Balor comes in. Brock Lesnar he's going to find out what happens when he goes to the Extreme. There's an ECW chant in the background. All these years later, ECW's been gone for nearly a quarter century. Well, not quite that long, 21 years. But anyway, Uso then runs and pulls out the table from under the ring. Reigns brings Ford down and uses a chair, puts him through a table at ringside. Lights go out, lights come back on. The Demon Finn Balor appears in the ring. And then Balor appears behind the heels. And then Usos get nailed with a crossbody. Balor takes the heels out with a huge dive. And that is the end of SmackDown. Edge will be on SmackDown next week to confront Rollins, and that's that.